Hi, I'm Carolyn Thompson. I'm a certified instructor for the Bill Alexander wet-on-wet technique of oil painting, and I'm here tonight to do a demonstration for you of that technique. I've decided tonight to do this composition of white poppies that you've just been shown. But before we get started on the painting, I wanted to let you take a look at some of the paintings that are up here and see how adaptable this technique is to any subject matter that you care to paint. You can absolutely use it for anything. I don't have a seascape up tonight, but you can use them for seascapes. You can even use this technique in portrait painting. So let's get started. The first thing that I've done is to cover my canvas. This is an 18 by 24 stretched canvas, and I've covered it with a base coat of magic white, which is a white medium. This is going to allow us to blend and mix our colors on canvas and get all those beautiful values that we need in the white poppies. We'll need light, medium, and dark, and this is what's going to help us do that. So I've already done this. Let me show you quickly how to test this magic white and make sure you have it on correctly. You only need a thin coat. I'd make a fingerprint. I don't know if you can see that, but if the outline of your fingerprint is coated nicely, then it's just perfect. If the grooves are filled in, you have just a little bit too much. Okay, and I wanted to introduce my palette to you. This is a limited palette tonight. This is one reason I chose this particular composition. It's a great lesson in value, and it also limits your palette so that your expense, if you're just beginning to paint, is held down just a little bit. I have titanium white, yellow ochre, phthalo blue, and Van Dyke brown, and that's all we'll need to complete this entire painting. So let's get started, and I'll describe this technique to you as I go. The first thing we want to do is decide on our composition. So I'm going to take a little bit of Van Dyke brown and just a touch of titanium white and make a really pleasing gray. And then I'm going to go up on the canvas and decide exactly where I want to place my poppies. Now, when you're doing floral painting, you want to make absolutely certain that you don't have one flower, say here. This is a very rough sketch, so don't worry about this. We don't care what's happening out in here right now. Everything's going to be covered, but this is to help you primarily. But we don't want to set one poppy of the same size directly across from or on top of another. So let's go up here a little, and we'll place another. And then we'll go up here. We also don't want anything absolutely centered on our painting. And we'll do a couple of little buds up here. Now, like I said, this is just an absolute rough sketch, so don't worry about how this looks. This is absolutely not your painting. But see how it goes in a nice curve? That's very pleasing to the eye. So it'll make a really nice composition. The next thing we want to do is to use the same colors, Van Dyke brown, titanium white, and we're going to fill in the flower base. Now remember, these poppies are going to be white, so we're going to need a darker value, a light, medium, and a dark value. So don't be too careful about this, just get it filled in. When we put in the background, if you don't like the way your flower base is looking, then you can shape it up as you go. And you don't want this paint real thick, so don't put up an awful lot on to begin with, because we're going to paint on top. This is wet and wet, remember, and we have our magic white on the bottom, so it's already wet. Add a little bit of white and lighten that up just a little bit. Generally, the flowers on the top, I try to make just a little bit lighter than the ones on the bottom, because the one on the bottom is in shadow. Okay. And we'll just continue filling in the flower base. Now, there are two different views in painting florals of having flowers touch. It's called kissing on canvas. Some artists believe that flowers should never, ever, ever touch on canvas. I do not necessarily go along with that, and neither do many other artists, but it's your option. This is going to be your painting, and you do exactly what you want to do. If you want them to touch like this painting, or if you want them not to touch, that's strictly going to be your option. My intention here tonight is to show you a technique, and then you can take this technique and do whatever you want with it. Do your own composition. You can even paint these poppies. I have many times in different colors to match decor in a home. People have certain colors going in their home. They make beautiful gifts. Christmas coming right around the corner. It'd be really nice to be able to do these. Okay, the next stage in development of this painting will be to put the centers into the poppies so that we can give these flowers some direction. We're going to have, we wouldn't want them all facing the same direction, so I think I'll have this one tilting a little to the right, this one a little to the left, and this one not quite straight up. Okay, in order to do that, you just make your centers a little darker than the flower base mixture that you have on already. So what you do is go straight in, put some color in, and then brush it out in the direction that you want your flower to tilt. Okay, well, I said we'd have this one going a little to the left. This could be a little darker down here because it's the one in shadow. Okay, and we'll do the same thing to this one. Put it in the center and then brush it out. By the way, I'm using a bristle brush. This is a floral brush. It's not expensive, so I tried to choose a painting that would use minimum paints and not real expensive brushes to get you started. And then we'll have this one, we said, facing almost straight up. So again, we'll put it in the center. Brush out. And then on the buds, we just need a little shadow here and there. We're not going to have a whole lot of attention on these buds up here, because these are going to be the star of our painting, the leaves, the background, and the stems and all that will be like supporting actors. But the poppies are going to be the real star. Okay, I think that looks good. The second thing we're going to do is go for our background. And in order to do that, I'm using the exact same color that I've used so far, Van Dyke Brown, Titanium White, only this time I'm going to add a touch of phthalo blue to it. And this makes a really beautiful gray. And we're going to need quite a bit of this, so I'm going to go ahead and quickly mix up some right here. You can, like I said before, you can do this in any color you want, but I've chosen to do it in this. The stroke that I'm going to be using to put the background in is very much like an X, like that. Only I'll be keeping my brush on the canvas most of the time. And in order for these white poppies to show up, we really need some dark background, close. So we're going to go ahead and put a little of that in. And I think we'll have a dark brown that's going to be darker, as in this one, darker here and lightens as it goes up. So basically, what I'm going to do is just go ahead and put in the background here. And I'm not using the X stroke right around the flowers because I want to get into the petals, but as soon as I get out, I will. All this is going to be blended later. So it'll be nice and soft, and you'll be able to see as we go. This technique provides for the development of paintings in stages, and this is just another stage. Okay, now that we're on the outside, I can start. Remember, there's magic white under here, already on the canvas, so we'll be able to blend these colors. And we don't want a nice, smooth background. If you'll notice on that painting, it's not real smooth. We want this modded effect. That's why I'm using the cross-hatch stroke. If you decide when you're doing your painting at home that you would prefer a different type background, go for it. This is your painting. You know, we do what we want to. We have a license as an artist to do that. Okay, now if you found that, as I have right here, that due to the lights, that your magic white has gotten a little dry, all you need to do is add a little to it, to the paint of the mixture that you already had, and it'll go much smoother. See? Now, if you want something darker, press harder. If you want it lighter, don't put as much pressure down on it. Then we'll get these beautiful variated colors, and then later when I blend it, we'll get it nice and smooth. I really like this particular color of blue. It's really pretty. Let's go ahead and get the darker part in. Let me get around the flowers, and then I'll use a larger brush to get in here. And it won't take quite so much time. You're really not limited to one brush doing this technique. That's one really nice thing about it. If you're in a hurry for any reason, then you can use a larger brush. I'll use a 1.5 inch or 1-inch foliage brush in just a moment after I get these pretty colors in here. Doesn't look like much now, but if it did, you'd be in trouble, because this technique in painting is very similar to building a home. You wouldn't want to put the roof on before you put the foundation in, or the walls up. So it goes in stages, and you need to do it properly. And it's also, you need the correct tools and equipment and instruction to be able to do this technique. But once you try it, you're just going to love it. It's just incredible, because you see results just instantly, almost. Even an absolute beginner, someone who has never painted in their entire lives, usually can finish a painting like this within an hour and a half to 2 hours. So now I'm going to add a little bit of magic white to this paint, go to a larger brush, and see if we can speed this up just a fraction so that we can get on to the rest of the painting. Same stroke, just a different brush. Still using the crosshatch. Need to mix me a little bit more paint, ran out. That's no problem, because this technique allows you to mix on the canvas. Later, when you go over this and you're looking at it, if you decide that you really don't like the colors that are in here, you can always go back and change them. There's absolutely nothing with this technique that you can't change if you don't like it for any reason. This particular easel really makes it nice, because you don't have that little rim of white canvas showing that you do with so many easels. This one comes so flush at the bottom. Okay, now coming up from here up, I want to make this a little bit lighter. So what I'm going to do is just dip into my magic white. You've seen me do that before. And I'd like for you to notice something right here. If you want to put a lighter color into a darker color, start above the darker color and mix down into it. It'll help it blend so much nicer and easier. Okay, and we still want it lighter up there. So I'm going to do the same thing, go above. And even though it looks dark going on right now, we'll mix with the magic white that's underneath. We want a pastel type painting, so we don't want any real dark colors. But if you have it too light, then it's not quite as interesting as it could be. So I'm starting above at the top again, especially on this corner, because I want this left-hand corner to be our source of light. And blend down into it. Okay, now these little areas right around the poppies, don't worry about that. Don't be concerned about that, because when we blend it out and when we paint our poppies, they're going to disappear. They'll totally be covered. Every now and then you need to step back away from your painting and take a look at it and see if it's the way you want it. I think that looks good for the stage. So what I'm going to do now is take a 2.5-inch blending brush. It's very, very soft, and dry, totally dry. And I want to start in the lightest portion of this painting and softly blend. This has really, it's a twofold purpose. We're blending our colors together so that they're a nice, uniform blend, and we're removing excess paint at the same time. How easy can you get? We want to soften the edges of these poppies so that they won't be harsh. Okay, and then you just continue to do this until it's exactly the way you want it. Okay, that looks good. Now, the next step that we're going to do is to put in the leaves and the stems. So to do that, I'm going to change brushes, and I have here a red sable. This is a rather expensive brush. It's the only one I use that really is more expensive than the others, but they're worth their weight in gold. They just do so much. In order to do our leaves, I'm going to make a mixture of phthalo blue. Can you see that? And I'm going to use yellow ochre and blend the blue into the yellow. This is so that that darker, heavier color won't just eat up this yellow ochre, the lighter color. And you can tell when it's about the color you want. What we want is a nice olive green. And blue and yellow make green. Okay, now let me show you how to load this brush. You need a figure 8 motion. You have to load it on both sides. And it needs to be very, very smooth, because we're going to use the chisel end of this brush to make some stems for the poppies, and then later to make some really thin stems that you see up at the top. Now we need to decide, there's something I wanted you to pay close attention to here. The stems on this flower are going to be the source of this painting. So in other words, what I'm trying to tell you is if this flower is facing off to the left, you don't want the stem out here. It needs to flow with where the flower is connected to the stem. Let's say the flower is connected right there. We simply bring it on down. Okay? This flower at the top is mostly facing straight up. Now you don't have to show all of the stems in here. We're going to have more leaves. We're going to have all kind of things that are shown. And just because we have 5 flowers doesn't necessarily mean you're going to see 5 stems showing. Okay. Also, try not to have your stems all the exact same length. Like this one, you wouldn't want them all exactly the same length. Some are a little fatter than others, some are skinnier, some are longer, some are shorter. Now that's all we're going to do on the stems right now. At the moment, I'm going to load my brush again, and I'm going to show you how to make a broadleaf. So if the camera could come right up into this area, right about here, okay, perfect. Okay, now we're going to use the top corner of this brush, and it's loaded to a chisel edge. Can you see how skinny that is? Yeah. Okay, let's come right up here, and I'm going to come about right here. Now I'm not going to try to copy this painting exactly. It gets boring if you paint the exact same painting. It'll be very, very close. What you do is put the top edge of this brush in, and you come into the stem. Makes a nice slim line. And now our first leaf is going to be at the very end, the very tip of this stem. And here's the first stroke. I'll do it really slowly for you. That's the first stroke. And from there, it's the identical stroke. You're heading for this stem, and you just overlap. Then you come back up with the other end of the brush, and then you do the other side. First stroke, overlapping strokes. Get a nice brush. Now if you want it a little darker than that, like I told you before, it's your painting, so you do what you want. We're going to have another leaf coming out here. First stroke, back up. I usually go back up in order to put a vein in. It looks really nice. And then same thing, overlapping strokes. And I think we'll put one out here, so I'm going to use the corner of the brush. Come out to the side. We don't want them all the same length and all in the same place, so I'm going to put one, for composition's sake, over here on the left. It's a little heavy on the right. And we do the same thing. You just overlap, and you make them as large or as small as you want for your particular composition. If you were using a smaller canvas, then you of course would need a little smaller leaf. Okay? And then bring the vein back out. Okay, on the right hand side, I think we're going to do the same thing. We'll bring some leaves out here, and I'll show you how to turn a leaf on edge over here. Let's go to about here. Make that nice thin line. It may take you just a little while, a little practice to be able to do this nice thin line with this larger brush. If you're having problems when you first begin, there's absolutely nothing wrong with using a liner brush or anything that works. The thing about painting is that you should absolutely enjoy and have fun doing whatever you're doing. That's one reason I chose this particular composition to do for you today. It is so much fun. Okay, let's do one on edge. Same stroke to begin with, then overlapping strokes. My magic white is just a little bit dry. Add a little bit to my paint. These lights made it just a little drier than I would normally want. Okay, there we go. Now, bring your vein out. And then the underside, the shadow side, will make it a little darker. I'm going to add a little blue and just a touch of Van Dyke brown. So that this portion is a little darker. And let's see how that looks, as if that leaf is turned on edge. And you can almost see into the center. Okay, I'm going to lighten my leaf color up just a little bit. And I think I normally try to do this type of leaf in threes. It's not an absolute rule, but for composition's sake, it looks really nice if you can do them in threes. If I run out of space, that line's a little thicker than I would have liked, but it's going to work. Like I told you, there's nothing you can't correct. And then we'll go on this side. And then I think we'll come off right here, the third one. First stroke and then overlapping strokes. Another thing I wanted to mention to you about this technique, it absolutely does not matter how old you are. You're never too late to start, too old to start painting, and I often encourage young teenagers and young adults to try this technique because many times they find that they have extra time on their hands and extra energy, and they need something to channel all that energy to, and this is a terrific thing. Okay, now I need to show you something else that's really important here. We said this is the stem on this flower, this is the source. If we were to take our hand and hold this entire bouquet of flowers, we would grab it right here. That's called the source. The stem is going to continue right through. That's how you find out where it goes. We want to put some leaves up here. You just follow the stem. If we had drawn a line through the flower, it would have been right there. This one, in fact, I'll draw a few stems first and show you how you can set your leaves out for composition's sake. We can follow this stem, come out about right there. We're going to have this stem right here. I think we'll come out right up here. We're going to need some. And then from there on, you watch for balance and composition, and you can put the flowers where the leaves where you want. I'm going to show you how to do another leaf in just a moment, but let's go ahead and get some of these broad leaves in first. Now that I've shown you how, I'll paint more to speed so that we can get this painting going here. I'm going to add a little yellow ochre because we're coming up into the light, and I want a different value to come out. Let's put one here, and it adds a lot of interest. Tints the leaves just a little. Same strokes, and you're heading in. If you find that you're having trouble, for instance, if your magic white is, let me show you how to repair this. I'm going to go back in, redo this leaf. I'm going to fill in the center because I was having a little bit of trouble here. Do the same stroke, just go over it, and then come back in, and the center is already done for you. In fact, when you're first starting out, you may prefer to do your leaves that way. It's perfectly all right. It's like I mentioned to you, whatever works. You want to do it. I'm simply teaching you a technique, or trying to show you a technique so that you can have fun and build your own compositions and use your own creative power. Let's go up here, and I think we'll put couple of leaves up here. Need some more yellow. That's just a little bit too dark to be in that light. We want to remember that our light source is up here at the top. So we go in again. Yeah, that's a little better. Bring it out. Bring it in again. I'm going to go over this one because I missed part of the deal. Okay. Now you can also make these leaves a little skinnier if you like, not quite so fat. Okay. And I'm going to put a third one right here. We have to remember again which direction our flowers are going. We wouldn't want a stem or a leaf facing down this way. We're trying to get a flow going here. Leaves coming in this way, leaves coming in this way. Everything's headed toward the source. Okay, now let's put in another smaller leaf right here. And you can overlap your leaves. There's absolutely nothing in the world. Nature overlaps. Add a little magic white to that. This is really dry. Wipe off the excess paint if you get a buildup because we need it nice and smooth. And let's go back over this one again. And then put your vein back in. I think when I come up here, I'm going to make a smaller leaf, a different type leaf, so I'll show you how to do that very slowly. This is just a one-stroke leaf. It's very simple. It's very much like a daisy stroke, if any of you have painted before. Simply make a little twist, turn your brush this way, twist that way, and back again. And you try not to get these absolutely even all the way down. They look much, much better if you change them around just a little bit. Let's go make a stem off of that one, and we'll do some more. And we can even put a little stem in here. Okay, just to give it some interest, to give it a different type flow. And I think I'm going to put a different type leaf right in here to show you. Now, we don't have a stem showing here, but remember that this is the source. And if we wanted a stem of just leaves, many times you add just foliage to a bouquet of flowers, so there's nothing wrong with putting some leaves right in here. But you need to remember where the source is. This is a two-stroke leaf. Very easy to do. It may take a little bit of practice to start out with, but you simply make one stroke, then another stroke. One stroke, and another stroke. And if you do this just exactly right, if you get really lucky, you'll have the little vein already in there. It's nice when that happens. The magic white beneath this makes all the difference. I'm going to add a little touch of yellow ochre. Do it again, only this time I'm going to make these. Change it just a little bit. You don't want everything to be absolutely perfect, because if it's not loose, if it's all absolutely tight, it's not nearly as pretty when you get done. Another thing I'd like to point out to you is that when you're trying to do your foliage, make every effort when you're first learning not to have these lined up, all the same length going up. This one comes out to the edge where this one meets. You want longer, shorter, longer, shorter, longer, shorter. We'll put one longer up here. Just kind of alternate them, and it makes for a lot of interest in your painting. We need to find our source again. Just always remember that. And let's put some of these nice little one-stroke leaves in here. See the variation of color there? That's really nice when that happens, and that's because we have the magic white underneath, and then we have the base coat on first. Okay, let's see where else we need some more leaves. Then you just check and see where you would like. I would like some leaves right here. I'd like some over here on the side, and remember I had long and short. I'm going to try to make them a little longer. So, and later, after we finish the poppies, I'll come back and do some cover leaves for you. And then we can add more leaves where we think that we need them. And many times you always have to think of balance in your composition and harmonizing the entire thing. So if you like fewer leaves than this, then put fewer in. If you like more, put more in. I think probably when we come back and do the poppies, I'll put more leaves in. I happen to like more foliage than most people do. So at this point, I'm going to stop on working on the leaves and start on the poppies for you, because they take a little bit of time, and I want to be sure and show you the stroke and do it just right. I'm going to use the same brush that I used to put in the background on it. It's just this one's a little smaller. I had it dirty, so I'm going to clean it off real quick. What I have in here is turpentine. I have odorless turps, and I have a little screen at the bottom, and I brush across it, takes the paint out, and allows the sediment from the paint to fall to the bottom and leaves my turpentine or my odorless thinner clean. It's really nice. And just wipe it off with a paper towel and move out of the way so you can check the painting out while I'm cleaning my brush. I really encourage all of you to try this method if you never ever have, or if you tried painting once before and you became frustrated. I promise you that's happened to me, and this technique will change your whole attitude about art and about painting. It's just incredible. Okay, we need to remember that we had thick paint on as a base coat. Thin paint will stick to thin paint, so I'm going to use a really thin, soft white on top of this base coat. And I'm going to go in and show you how to do this. First stroke, this is a soft white. That was my hard white over there. You load the brush in exactly the same way, both sides, nice and even. Okay, if we can come right in here, right to this area, I'll show you this first stroke. This is a key stroke to making poppy, so you need to be able to see it really well. That's great. Right there. I'm going to go straight in to the canvas, push my brush, and pull down. Do that one again for you so you can see it. There's no trick to turning your wrist or moving a certain way. You simply go straight in and release as you come down. The second stroke is very simple. It's an overlapping stroke. See this variation in color that we're getting here? That's perfect. That's just what you want. All those different values. We're going to come over to the other side. There's a sequence, pardon me, to doing this. You do the left side first, or if you're left-handed, the right side first. Then we'll come over to the edge. Over here, the same stroke, going straight into the canvas and down. Overlapping strokes. Okay, the next one, we're going to do the center petal. We're going to go straight in and down, and overlapping strokes. When we get these painted, I'll show you how to go back and do all the pretty highlights and the ruffled edges, but we're not concerned about that right now. The stage on this painting is what we're doing right here. So don't get all worried if it doesn't look exactly like you want it to look. Then we're going to go to the right-hand side and finish this particular petal. Straight in and down, and overlapping strokes. I'm going to redo this side real quick so it'll show up just a little better. Okay. Then I'm going to come down here and do this, the center front petal that we have curving across here. Go tuck right up under this petal and just come around. It will blend into the dark that you have on and disappear. Then we're going to, and there's something else that's real important that I need to show you right here. Every petal on this flower is headed to this point where the stem is connected to this flower. You don't want to put a stroke in that's headed up here or out this way. You want it to head to this point. Every one of these strokes is headed to this point right there. Okay, that's real important. Okay, so even when we get down here on the bottom and we're going to make these strokes, we're going to still head into that point. And if you happen to go over some green doing this, that's nice. It gives it a nice translucent look, so don't worry about that. This one, if you have to bend your brush to get back into the imaginary point, then do it. That's what we need to do. I'm going to make this into two petals because it's pretty wide here. I'm going to start another one right here. Same stroke, bending back in, and heading, always heading to this point right here. Now before we start up here, I'm going to show you how to put those pretty highlights on and give this some contour and some shape. What I'm doing is loading with the same paint, coming up to the top, and notice I'm pushing in with my brush. And over here, same thing. So give it a nice lacy edge on it. I'm doing this trying to stay out of the way of the camera, so it's a little awkward for me over here. And the same thing over here. We're trying not to have all of these poppy petals the same circumference, not all perfectly round. Again. It's really not necessary to do every one of the petals. I normally do all of them on the first one, down here. You can actually change the form of these petals by these highlights that we're putting on right now. Okay, let's go up here and do this other one. Here, the same thing. This one's facing this way, so we're going to come over to the far left, push straight in, and down, overlapping strokes. Come over to this side, push in, pull down, overlapping strokes. Do the center one, and overlapping strokes. Go halfway, then come to this side and meet it. Now, like I said, it's nice every now and then to have some of this background color and the green come through. It looks really translucent. If it's more than you want, cover it up. Okay, I'm going to do this center petal right here. If your petals, the first stroke on each one of your petals don't show up as well as you would like, simply go back and redo that first stroke, and it'll certainly pop it out. Okay, we're going to come tuck right up under this one, and this time I'm going to separate it, bring it around. Nice smooth edge. It'll almost disappear because of the magic white underneath. Again, the source on this flower is where the stem meets it, so we're going to head back to that point. With each petal, you have to head toward that point. Same thing with this one. We're going to head back. Okay. And then I'm going to add a few highlights on this one for you. Push in and release. Push in and release. Okay, let's put a couple of little lacy edges on this one. And we'll make this one a different circumference here. Go over here. Okay. Go up here and do the third one. This one is tilting a little to the right up here. Not much, almost straight on. So we do the same thing. It doesn't matter what size the poppy is. It's the same stroke. Okay, we'll come to the far left, straight in and down, and then overlapping strokes. This poppy should be a lot lighter than these two down here because it's in more of the light. See, it has more of the light source up here. Same thing, come across from it and come in, overlapping strokes. Once you get this technique down, you can paint these poppies in any color you wish. They really make beautiful gifts. Let's do the center one again. Do half of it, come to the other side. And I'm trying to come not to the edge of this top petal, but just below it, about a brush length below it, like right there. And overlapping. If you destroy an edge or mess up an edge, go back and put it in again. There's absolutely nothing you can't repair with this technique. Okay, we're going to put the centers in. We can make these centers as fancy or as diverse as you want. You could split them in the front. You can have them solid, whatever. The source of this particular poppy is right here. It's where it meets the stem. So all of our petals head back to the source. Okay, we'll have one. This time on this particular petal, I'm not going to curve it. I'm just going to have it going in. It's headed toward the same place. I just didn't put the little stroke there that I did before, but I'm going to put one up here and head it toward the source. And you can put as many petals or as few petals on these flowers as you like. On this one, we're not going to have quite as many highlights on it. Yeah, just a few. They're real attractive and they Just show up really nice. Now on the buds, when you get to the buds up here, we don't want a lot of attention up here. So we're going to, same stroke, only I'm pulling it down. Go right over here, do the same thing, and don't make it real distinct. We'll put a stem in there later or a leaf to bring it in. The back petals, same thing, just bring them around. If you want to go back in here and bring that one, that's fine. Same thing over here. Okay, keep these real loose up here, the little buds that we have up here. Now I want to step back and check and see if there's any place I want to put more highlights. I think I do want more highlights on this particular, and I need to redefine this particular stroke. The stroke separates this petal from this one, and I think you can tell right now these look like one large petal, but you can change that by going in and simply doing that. And then we'll put a little highlight. Most people, when you give gifts of these paintings, like these little lacy looking edges. This particular breed of poppy has that too. They're quite attractive. Okay, the next development in our painting will be the centers for the poppies. So to do that, I'm going to switch back to the brush that I painted the leaves with, this red sable. I'm going to use the same leaf mixture that I had, only I'm going to add some Van Dyke brown. Make it a little darker. Not terribly brown, but you want it. It's not exactly green. Okay, we're going to make a half circle. If you'll look at the original painting, you can see not all the poppies will have the centers showing. Okay, here we go. Going to go right up here and just make a half circle. Go on this one's facing this way, so we'll do a half circle here. Same thing up here on this one. Half circle there. And the next thing we want to do is to put some stamen on these poppies. So I'm going to dip into my odorless thinner. We want this real thin. This brush this is a liner brush and it has nice long hairs on it. And in order to load it, you need to roll it in the paint like this. And we want this so thin that it's like ink. If it's not, it won't move for us. So roll it through, have it come to a nice point, and there's two different ways to put these stamen in. I'll show you both. On this one up here, I'll show you, there's one way you can start at the center of the poppy, come up and release, and as you release, you get this nice little edge on it, and that's if you want to start at the bottom and move up. Gives this nice little effect. There's another way that you can do it. It's much easier for some people, and that's to start up here and come down, like there. One thing you want to remember when you're putting these centers in is to fan them out. You don't want them all going straight up and being absolutely even. They fan to the left, they fan to the right. Some stand up straight, some are closer to you and shorter. Some are longer, depending on how you're looking at it. While we're up here, we'll go ahead and do the top one. And you don't need gobs of these in there, just the indication that they're in there. Again, it depends on what you like. I don't like too many of them in there. We'll come down here and do this one. Remember to fan them out. Some much shorter, some show up better than others, some are longer. And you don't have to keep these too neat. We're going to paint over them and then blend them a little bit when we're done. Okay, we're not going to put any centers in the buds up here because they wouldn't show. They're closed up. Okay, the next thing we want to do is put some pollen on. So to do that, I use paper towels like crazy when I paint. So let me clean my brush off here. To put the pollen in, we're going to use titanium white and just a touch of yellow ochre because we want an off-white. So we'll use the same soft white, and then we'll put just a touch of yellow ochre in it. Not quite that much. And I'm going to add just a little bit of magic white to it to loosen it up. Take the corner of your sable brush, come up here and just jab these on. And don't be too careful about doing this. You don't want them all uniform little jabs. And again, if you do it right, see the little center that you get automatically? Okay. Don't come up here and like, oh, I need one there, and I need one there. Don't do that. Just be real loose with your painting and have a good time. And just jab some in here. Believe me, the quicker you do it, the better they look. We'll come up here and put a few up here. Now, when you're doing this painting at home, you can take much more time with it and practice it than I'm taking right here. I have 26 minutes here, so I'm hurrying through this. But, okay, I'm going to put a few, I mentioned to you that I might go back and put a few cover leaves in, so I think I'm going to do that right now. But just before I do that, I'm going to take what's called a bunny brush. I'll show you what it is. This is a super soft blending brush. It's almost like a blush brush that women use to put on their makeup. It is just so, so soft. And I'm going to come up here and lose some of these lines on these poppies. They look a little harsh to me. And if you like the painting like this, many people prefer it like this. That's fine. Leave it like that. I prefer a nice, soft look. So what you do is come in to the lightest area first. If something shows up, blend it out. You've got a background back there that it'll blend right into. And just barely. You don't touch this brush very hard to that canvas at all. It's just a whisper. And I'm going to come and do the same thing here. Like I said, this is not necessary if you don't want to. There's always a chance that you're going to destroy some edges, but like I told you, you can always go back in and put them back. That's the great thing about this technique. See how soft that makes that look? It just makes all the difference in the world. And I even like to come in sometimes and just softly brush out some of my centers so that they're not quite so distinct. And normally I like for the larger poppy down at the bottom to stand out just a little more than the others. Anyway, so this brushing really helps with that. We'll put a little leaf right over that, so no problem. You aim this brush in the direction the petal's going. Each one of these petals have their own vanishing point. That's what I was trying to show you earlier. They're all headed toward the center where this flower is connected to the stem. Each one of them has their own vanishing point. And it's real important that you headed all of them in exactly the same direction. Okay, let's go up here and put some more leaves on this painting, and I think we'll be about done. Okay, as I'm looking at this painting in balance, I'd like more. There's an open spot here. There's an open spot here. And also I want to go back and show you how to add some depth to this painting, too, by adding really vague, almost shadowy looking leaves. But I'll do that last after I put some others in. Let's go right here and put some cover leaves. I'm going to make this a little darker than I had these others. Let's go right up here, and it's all right, go right over your flower. Come into the stem. And let's put some of these two-stroke leaves in here. And just continue on down with them. I'm going to go up here and do the same thing. I would like some right in here, using the top corner of my brush to make that nice fine line. And this time I'm going to use the one stroke and even bring one off. You can add as many or as few as you like, or leave them off completely if you like. There's another type leaf I'd like to show you how to do. start with again with the fine edge of the brush. Let's see where would be a good place for me to put one of these. This is a good spot right here. Go in, bring a fine line out, then bend your brush, and then come over to the edge. It's a long blade, leaf blade type. You can make them as large or as small as you want. Make a thin little line. Come over to the side. And do another one. Put a better little point on that one. Okay. Let's come over here. I'd like some in here. Let's come up here. Remember to try not to get these all absolutely even. Now, at this point, if you'll go into some of your background color, wipe some of your leaf color off and go take very little of your green color that you had for the leaves and go into the background, the gray. We'll set these flowers back and put some depth in here. Just start making leaves. These barely show up. You don't want them to show up. Whoops, got a little yellow ochre in there. What we're trying to do here is just set these back. Add some depth in here. Okay, we can come with some in here. Using the side of my brush again. See how they just barely show up? In fact, I don't know if you can see that on camera. But it makes a total difference in your painting when you add these background leaves. Okay, I have long, short, long, short, long, short. You just go around and check and make absolutely certain that nothing's the same all over. Okay, I think that's all I'm going to do today. I really appreciate your watching. And if you've enjoyed the show, please let us know. And I hope to see you again. Sign your painting and try this technique. You'll love it. Bye-bye. Okay, the most important thing about your painting, of course, is your own signature. Let me give you an idea of how to do this. If you'll use your liner brush, dip into your magic white, go into a color that coordinates with your painting no matter what color you have. I'm going to use white here. Put your hand against the canvas and use it as a lever. I've already started my signature, but you can see you can get a nice, help keep it even. How large or how small you make your signature is up to you. You don't want it to be obtrusive, so try not to get it, you don't want it to detract from the painting. But you certainly want people to be able to see your name. If you run out of paint, just go back in. Sometimes if you add terps to this, or your odorless thinner, works just as good. There it is, and then stand back and admire it and give it as a gift or keep it for yourself. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.